Hi everyone, good morning and welcome to today's morning report on Tuesday the 7th of July with me, Rich Perry, market analyst at Hantech Markets. European trading session, it's got off to a relatively stable start actually, and that's coming on the back of, despite the moves by the ECB overnight or yesterday evening, whereby instead of looking to raise the ELA, the Emergency Liquidity Assistance to Greece, they kept it stable, kept it steady at around 89 billion euros, and also increased the collateral requirement for Greek banks. So that's certainly ramping up the pressure on Greece and on everyone really to try and get a decision and a deal done in the next coming days, because without it Greece is certainly going to be running out of money. The banks remain shut, and it is a very rather a sort of tricky state that Greece finds itself in at the moment, and it's close to sort of falling over the edge of the cliff. They need to get a deal done. They've got the Eurogroup meeting today to try and thrash something out. Greece is going to have to come up with something new, something different that the Eurogroup hasn't already seen, and it certainly looks as though it's going to be a difficult one in the coming days. But certainly it's sort of sharpening the minds, you would argue, that something needs to be done pretty soon. Other than that, we've got, let me just show you how the market is viewing all this. And first of all, you've got the German Bund yields that actually sold off yesterday but then rallied, and then they're actually down a bit again today. But if you look at the Spanish, they're sort of fairly stable. And I'm using this as a bit of a gauge of the core periphery Eurozone sovereign debt spread, as it were, the how the core is performing against the peripheral bonds. Peripheral bonds in the Eurozone just slightly, bond yields slightly lower today, so fairly stable there today. It's also interesting that we're seeing equity markets solid. I'll show you the VIX here today, sharply higher at the open yesterday, but then in the States, the VIX volatility started to pull back, and I think volatility in European markets is also relatively under control, considering how it could have been. In forex markets, we're seeing the dollar strengthening overnight. That's sort of certainly coming with this just gradual slide in the euro. The euro is not coming under huge selling pressure, but it is on the slide at the moment, and that's certainly being reflected in this move higher in the dollar index. But other than that, the dollar is against all other currencies is stronger anyway. You had then the RBA, the Reserve Bank of Australia, have its monetary policy meeting overnight. Didn't move on rates, kept flat at 2%, but it continues to talk the Aussie lower and suggest that a weaker Aussie is better for the or certainly what the RBA is looking for. So the Aussie has come under a little bit of selling pressure today. In terms of economic data today, we've got the UK industrial production at 9:30, and that is forecast to come at 1.8%. So that would be an improvement on the year-on-year industrial production number, and that would actually be a 3-month high. Oh no, actually a 4-month high, if that were to be seen. So that would be a fairly positive number actually, if that were to be seen at 9:30. Then you've got the US data. You've got the trade balance at 1:30. Forecast to deteriorate slightly to 42 spots. 42.6 on the in deficit in terms of billions, that is, and as ever you'd need to look at the sort of composition of imports and exports as to the exact impact on the data. On the dollar. And then at 3 o'clock, you've got the JOLTS jobs openings. JOLTS has been a very good indicator, continues to rise, continues to improve, showing the improvement in the labour market, and that is expected to continue today, 7 to 5.35 million there, just slightly below last month, but last month was a very strong month. So lots going on today, but I think all eyes will be on this Eurogroup meeting, and it'll be interesting to see how this turns out. So my chart of the day is silver. Now silver I find is very interesting because it has been in this downtrend now for, was it 8 weeks, and it's looking to put continued pressure on that downtrend. You've actually had 3 relatively decent candles in a row actually. Today it's actually started off a little bit weaker, but I would argue that the stochastics are certainly nowhere near as weak as they or as negative as they were. You'd need to see more on the RSI and the MACD lines before you're starting to think of a turnaround, but certainly this downtrend is coming under pressure, or certainly did yesterday. Also, I'm looking out for this 21-day moving average, which has provided the resistance in the past 3 weeks as well. That's falling at around 1587.88 at the moment. And it'll be interesting to see once again how that moves. But the fact is that silver has come back to this huge old support around 1550. This is a support that consistently has been used as a sort of a low for the silver price over the past sort of 7 or 8 months really, and consistently again that's come back to that support. So is this the point at which we're starting to build the support on silver? This is that level again. You can actually see on this chart also 1575. I've drawn this line in here. It was provided a floor, and now in the last week or so it's provided the basis of resistance. So that is a level that you need to see silver moving above, and certainly at the moment you could argue it's sort of going sideways a little bit. It isn't continuing to sell off, and you could argue it's in a bit of a sideways trading range at the moment. But that support around 1550, well the actual low is 1540. But 1550 tends to be has tended to again be sort of the basis of the lows as well. So the fact that it's holding above 1550 is a positive, but we need to see silver back above 1575 and ideally 1587.88, which is not only is that reaction high from late June, but also around where that 21-day moving average comes in today. So it'll be interesting to see how this one moves. But at the moment, the selling pressure is not as great as it once was, but it's still a lot more to do on silver before you start to see a broken downtrend and any prospect of a recovery. So I wish you good luck in your trading on silver today, and I will speak to you later. Thank you.